So here is the Gen 2 Yaris GR, and this is our newly developed intake manifold especially for it. This will provide 36% better internal flow, improving engine power, torque and throttle response alongside many other benefits which you can see listed on the website. Today we're going to show you how to fit it. Just like all of our other products, we do include fitting instructions in the kit, but there is a video just to make it a little bit easier. Now the first thing you need to do is pull up the engine cover. This car didn't come with it, so we're just starting from this point. The first thing you need to do is take off these three connections right at the front of the vehicle. Now you do need to remove the alternator wiring, which is held on by a 10mm nut. This is a live wire, so we do recommend taking off the negative side of the battery terminal inside the boot. Now you need to get all of this wiring loom out of the way, and it's held on by a 10mm there, and there's actually a clip on the left hand side, and you need to unplug every single wiring plug which comes off this harness so you can move it all out of the way. Now some of them will be held in with some plastic clips, so having a trim removal tool here would help. Once you've got them out of the way, just push all that wiring back to the top of the engine. Now there's a coolant hardline here which is bolted directly to the manifold, so you're going to have to remove that by taking off these three 10mm bolts here. Once those are undone, you can just set it aside away from the manifold. Now to move that coolant hardline, there will be a plastic clip holding the two coolant lines together. Just take off that plastic clip, and while you're down there, there's one more plug which you have to remove. It's quite tucked away, but you'll be able to see it once you're down there. Now at this stage, the manifold itself should be becoming a lot more visible, so it should be a lot easier to tell what you actually have to remove, and that's anything that connects to the manifold or that's sitting in front of it. Now the biggest thing is this wiring loom that is bolted directly to the manifold itself, so you're going to have to pull that out the way, and you can take that off with a few 10mm bolts. And you'll have to remove this breather hose which is going right in front of the manifold. I did have to use some long nose pliers to get in and get this hose clip, but once you've got that off, it should be pretty easy to move out of the way. Now this is probably the trickiest part of the install. There's two bolts here which you need to take care of. There's one on the left here which you need to loosen but not fully remove, and there's one on the right which you need to fully remove. And these can be very tricky to get to, so have a play around with some different spanners and extensions and just work out what's best for you. And while you're down there, this is probably a good time to unplug the throttle body wiring from the throttle body. It's a big plug and you have to remove back the rubber casing to actually get to the clip. Now there's just a few more bolts that we have to get to before we can actually start taking the manifold off, but I promise you this is the last thing we need to remove. So this wiring harness here is held on by a couple of 10mm bolts which you do need to remove. There's also a Jubilee clip next to it as well which you have to loosen off, and finally this is the last plug that you need to take off. Once this plug is removed, you can push that whole wiring loom to the side, and then we can finally start taking off the manifold. Now the manifold is held on by two 12mm bolts and two 12mm nuts on the outside, so just remove all of them while you're at this stage. So the throttle body on the car does have coolant running through it, so you do need to remove these two coolant lines going to the throttle body to get it out. Now with this kit in there, we do provide a delete kit for this loop because we found it to be not beneficial having coolant running through the throttle body, but to get it out there will be some coolant which will escape from here. The car we're working on now has already been drained, so this isn't a problem we have to deal with at this stage. Now those coolant lines can be tough to remove. Once you've got them off the throttle body, the whole manifold and the throttle body will come out as one unit. It's good to get it on a bench, and we're going to start changing everything over that we need onto the new manifold. Now we are upgrading this car to a big boost kit, so it's going to look a little bit different, but the process is still going to be exactly the same if you're putting on the standard piping. So there's four 10mm bolts which go through the throttle body and hold the throttle body and the elbow onto the manifold, which you need to remove. Now once you've got the two manifolds on the bench, you first want to change over the rubber gaskets from the original one to your new manifold. Now we will be changing the map sensor over from the old manifold to the new one, so you have to remove that as well. Now the kit does come with all the bolts you need included, so now would be a good time to get them all out of the bag ready to go. Now you can bolt the map sensor into the new manifold using the M6 by 12mm bolts. If you're unsure, have a tape measure or a vernier here so you know exactly which bolt goes where, following the fitting instructions on paper. Now the manifold comes with 3 NPT ports. Now you can use these in the future for any gauges or external add-ons, but if you're not using these, there are 3 blanks which come in the kit to allow you to block these off. Now after this you can reinstall the elbow and the throttle body back onto the new manifold. Now you use the original 10mm bolts to do this, but just make sure you've got the orientation correct. So take a good look at this image here. If you've not got it correct, you'll know as soon as you put it up onto the vehicle, so don't stress too much. Now if you are upgrading the elbow at this point as we are, make sure to change over any relevant sensors to the new elbow. So while you've got a lot of access, now would be a really good time to install that coolant loop delete. And now you're good to put the manifold back into the car, but just make sure you've got these 2 things in the right position because you'll be taking it back off again. Make sure that the elbow is actually sliding into the silicone holes. And secondly, make sure that this bracket is in front of the manifold. If it's behind like I did, you're going to have to take it off again just to make sure that that bracket is in front. And now you can start about placing the bolts into the manifold. These bolts will be supplied in the kit and they're the big M8 hex bolts. Now make sure that all of these are in before you start tightening them. It can be a little bit difficult and you might have to get one from underneath, but we have supplied a tool in the kit to make tightening these a lot easier. And now we can start putting everything back. Some things will be changed when we're reinstalling the part, so we're going to walk you through it as well. First thing you need to do is tighten that Jubilee clip going on to the elbow. And now you can reinstall the coolant hardline. Now originally this did have 3 10mm bolts bolting it down, but with this new manifold you're only going to put back the 2 at the front and not install the 3rd on the side. Now in the kit there will be a bracket, and this is the orientation that it needs to be bolted to the manifold. Now there is another black bracket in the kit, and this is where the wiring loom actually clips onto. Now to install that there will be a U-shaped washer, a bolt and another washer, and this will be used to clamp down that bracket. And now you can fold back the full wiring loom and you can actually clip this into the manifold, and you can use the original 10mm bolt to bolt it back to where it was originally on the right hand side. Now these aluminium brackets will need to be removed from the wiring, as now you're going to be bolting the wiring to the black bracket. And this is a visual of how the wiring should be going on that black bracket. And then you can start replugging all of the plugs back in. You will have to run the wiring loom from the front of the manifold to connect them to the wires on the other side. Now this is the old breather hose, and we have an uprated silicone one which comes in the kit. So we're going to be taking this off and we're going to be swapping it over. The one thing you will need to change over is the one-way valve. So once you've got that off, place the new silicone hoses next to the old ones and just make sure you've got the correct orientation. Now with the Jubilee clips you can actually install this back in the car where it came from. Flow here is important, so make sure the arrow on the one-way valve is pointing towards the manifold. Now we took this time to upgrade to an oil catch can. Now if you do already have a catch can installed in the vehicle, you will have to use a 45-degree bend, as it will need to take a different route away from the new manifold. Now this is totally optional, and if you're not installing a catch can or you don't already have one, just ignore this step completely. And that's the installation of the manifold complete. If you are planning on running the standard engine cover, there will be a little bit of trimming that will need to be required. But we're taking this time to install our new AIRTEC engine cover, which bolts directly over the top.